On the night my daughter got married, I found myself solitary in our living room in Clarksville, Tennessee, consuming reheated chicken and tuned into the 10 o'clock news. It wasn't a case of forgetfulness or being away. No work emergency compelled me either. Instead, I stayed home due to my wife's assertion that my presence would create an awkward atmosphere. My daughter, the same one I once taught to ride a bike in the Piggly Wiggly parking lot on Providence Boulevard, concurred with her. By 10:14 that night, my phone started ringing off the hook, as someone at the reception hall had filmed and shared the groom, Tyler Ashton Briggs, forcefully grabbing my daughter by the wrist in front of 200 guests, followed by an attempt to pull away resulting in a hard slap across her face, causing her tiara to fall. 3 news stations had broadcasted the video by the time my neighbor asked if I'd seen it, knocking on my door. I am Gerald Prout, 54 years old. I spent 26 years as a detective with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office before retiring 2 years ago. I handled homicides, domestic disputes, and child abuse cases. I faced people who committed heinous acts without betraying my emotions. However, that night, watching the video on my phone left me unable to keep a neutral expression. What followed, the actions of Nora, Pamela, myself, and Tyler Ashton Briggs, were not anticipated, and this is the story I need to share with you. Before proceeding, let me know your location in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Now let us delve into the narrative. Let me first take you back 6 months prior because that context is crucial to understanding that fateful night. Nora is my only child. My mother, Pamela, and I have been together for 31 years. We reside at a house on Crossland Avenue, just 3 blocks away from the elementary school where Nora once walked home unaccompanied due to her independence-driven nature. She's always displayed a strong-willed demeanor that originates from self-assurance rather than rebelliousness, a trait she inherited from me. Pamela might argue it came from her, but she is mistaken in this case. Approximately 2.5 years ago, Nora encountered Tyler Briggs at a professional networking event in Nashville. At the time, she was employed in marketing for a healthcare firm based downtown. Tyler worked in commercial real estate. He donned a sport coat over a Henley and informed her of his upbringing in Franklin, which, to certain individuals in Middle Tennessee, implies being part of an affluent family without explicitly stating it. Encountered Tyler for the first time at Nora's arranged dinner at Mafia Osa's on Division Street, a restaurant whose background noise level left you slightly unable to hear clearly, necessitating leaning in throughout the meal and causing an uneasy balance. Whether this was mere coincidence or not remains unclear. I am yet to determine. However, what is certain is that Tyler spent most of the dinner discussing himself and asking questions, which seemed more like investigation than genuine interest. He inquired about my past cases and whether I still maintained ties with law enforcement. As a retired detective, I'm sensitive to repetitive inquiries. When someone asked me twice about my professional connections within an evening, I took note. On the ride home that night on I-24, I informed Pamela of my discomfort regarding Tyler. You accused me of being a police officer instead of a father, pointing out my suspicious gaze towards everyone. You reminded me that Nora was content, which was significant. I chose to disregard it because there was some truth in your words. I have developed an observant demeanor due to decades of work, not always beneficial for civilians. I gave Tyler the advantage of the doubt and attended Sunday dinners at Nora's apartment when he stayed over. We watched sports together, but I observed how he frequently interrupted you while you spoke, subtly disregarding your words. He never sought your opinion on any matter in my presence, yet you'd glance at him before responding to my questions directly, although it seemed as though you were happy. What could one do about such a situation? You got engaged last December. Tyler popped the question atop the Thompson Hotel in Nashville, with a photographer present for the occasion. Nora phoned me from the parking garage afterward, still shedding joyful tears, and I conveyed my happiness for her, albeit with some effort. The wedding preparations commenced promptly thereafter. Pamela dived headfirst into this endeavor. She and Nora began regular meetings at their dining room table, laden with binders, fabric swatches, and menus from caterers. By the time I returned home from my daily walk, I'd find cake samples on the kitchen counter and assorted centerpiece options scattered across the living room floor. I was privy to the general outlines, the venue, a historical estate named Glenstone Hall, situated about 40 minutes northeast of Nashville, the date, the second Saturday in October, and an estimated guest list of around 200. However, I was excluded from matters of significance. The first hint emerged in February. Nora phoned Pamela to share that Tyler's family desired a specific format for the ceremony. Traditional, she explained, implying his stepfather would escort him, his mother would deliver a reading, and the receiving line would prioritize his family initially. I conceded, recognizing weddings necessitate concessions. The second indication arrived in April. We were dining at Puckett's downtown Franklin, only the two of us, an occurrence less frequent since Tyler joined the picture. I sought updates on planning from Nora. She said all was well. After a brief pause, she looked into her sweet tea and murmured, "Tyler suggests you might not want to propose a toast." I halted my fork midair. Not due to the toast itself, as I am comfortable abstaining from public speaking, but because of her delivery, as if she had rehearsed it and carried this for some time before disclosing it directly to me. "Tyler ponders," I suggested. "What's your take?" She cautiously replied, "I believe you and Tyler are yet to fully understand each other, and a toast might put both of you in an uncomfortable position." This wasn't an answer to my query. Being a detective, I recognized the difference between an answer and evasion, yet she wore that expression, not scared per se, but rather on alert, as if anticipating if I would complicate matters for her. In that instant, I decided to relent. The third signal transpired in July. On a Tuesday evening in the kitchen, Pamela sat me down. She donned an expression she assumes when she's reached a decision and wants my approval, an expression that implies the decision has already been made. This was merely a formality. She served us coffee even though it was 7 in the evening and neither of us required it. Then she disclosed that Nora and Tyler had discussed it, and they deemed it optimal if I did not attend the wedding. I'll repeat what I said earlier as I want you to comprehend I heard it correctly initially. It was my daughter's wedding we're discussing. Pamela mentioned that Tyler's family is extensive and tight-knit, and they have particular preferences for the event. She implied that my presence, particularly my past as a law enforcement officer, an unspecified prior legal matter regarding Tyler's elder brother, and my protective demeanor, a term coined by Pamela, not Nora, might create tension. She added that Nora cried when discussing this matter with her. Nora doesn't want me to miss the wedding, but it seems important to Tyler, and I understand she agreed. I acknowledged. Pamela glanced at her coffee. She desires a smooth event, Gerald. I pondered on this for quite some time, considered phoning Nora, dialed her number nearly 5 times during the subsequent week, but each time the image of her expression at that lunch in Franklin held me back. Anxiously waiting, hesitant to complicate matters further, I set down my phone. I convinced myself it was just one day. If I resisted, I was validating Tyler's doubts about me. The overriding concern was Nora's long-term well-being. If I made this a fight, I might win the battle and lose my daughter. I informed Pamela I wouldn't attend. For the subsequent 3 months, I watched from afar as my wife planned a wedding I wasn't part of. The October day was crisp and chilly, typical of Tennessee autumns where the sky is intensely blue, and the maples along Gallatin back roads were ablaze with fiery hues. I unintentionally found myself on Long Hollow Pike that morning without a clear destination, eventually turning around and returning home. The day was spent on meaningless tasks like mowing an unneeded lawn and reorganizing the garage. I consumed a sandwich leaning over the kitchen sink, avoiding the solitude of the dining table. Pamela was at Glenstone Hall since 9 a.m. She sent me a picture of Nora in her wedding dress just before the ceremony. Nora appeared lovely. The smile on her face seemed forced. Over the course of 26 years, I've mastered distinguishing between genuine smiles and acting, and I gazed at that image for quite some time. The ceremony took place at 4 p.m., followed by the reception at 6 p.m. By 8 p.m., I was back on the couch with the television on and my phone face down on the cushion next to me, unwilling to follow updates yet unable to prevent myself from doing so. At 10:14 p.m., the phone screen illuminated, neither from Pamela nor Nora. Instead, it was a message from my former coworker, Ray Benton, now handling cold cases at the Hendersonville office. Ray's message read, "Gerald, tune into Channel 5 immediately." I grabbed the remote and switched it on. The video had been uploaded to Twitter at 9:47 p.m. and was already played over 80,000 times. The caption below the anchor read, "Incident of violence at Gallatin wedding reception. Groom under investigation." Shot on a phone in landscape mode with a bit of shakiness due to haste, the video displayed Glenstone Hall's tall windows, string lights, round tables, and white linens. The dance floor was visible, along with my daughter, Nora, who was near the edge of the dance floor in her wedding dress. She was conversing with Tyler, though it seemed more like he was addressing her. From the very first frame, his body language was off, leaning forward with a downturned chin, a posture suggestive of an outcome already decided. Even without an audible sound, yet there was a cacophony whispers, music drifting from somewhere. I could discern the unfolding scenario much like deciphering clues at a crime scene. Before any action took place, I sensed something ominous was impending. Nora gently touched his arm. He retaliated by gripping her wrist tightly. She recoiled, displaying an expression of fear and uncertainty, a sight Nora had never shown in her entire existence. His right hand then struck her, not pushing or shoving, but delivering a hard slap across the face. The sound on the recording pierced through all other noises. A crisp, resounding crack, followed by an eerie silence as everyone around fell mute, a silence with its own resonance. Her tiara dropped. She touched her face in response. He stood motionless for precisely 2 seconds, each second countable. Then his expression changed to one I recognized: damage control. He reached out to her, but she retreated. That was where the recording ended. I found myself standing alone in my living room. I can't recall waking up. My phone rang. It was Pamela. Her voice sounded fragile. She urgently requested my presence. Within minutes, I was on Old Hickory Boulevard in my truck. The usual 45-minute drive to Gallatin on a Saturday night took only 32 minutes, and I'll be honest, I didn't adhere to any speed limits along the way due to my familiarity with these roads from years of enforcing them. Upon arrival at Glenstone Hall, Pamela met me in the parking lot, still dressed as the mother of the bride in a navy blue gown bought from Dillard's Green Hills. Her makeup was smudged, and there were still people milling about, unsure whether to leave or stay. 2 of Tyler's groomsmen stood near the garden wall without their jackets. "Where is she?" I asked. "Inside in the bridal suite," Pamela replied, cutting herself off. "She needs you. She doesn't." Pamela paused again. "Where is he located?" They led him to the back area. A police car was parked outside already. 2 deputies from Sumner County were stationed at the main entrance. Upon showing one of them my retired credentials and name, I was informed that I had been expected due to Pamela's call ahead. I entered the building. The reception hall bore a characteristic air of a party that didn't end well. Untouched food remained on tables, glasses with lipstick marks around their rims, and disheveled centerpieces were everywhere. The DJ equipment was being carefully packed up in one corner. I walked past everything as if it were a tableau, which it essentially was. Nora was in the bridal suite with 3 of her bridesmaids and Pamela's sister, my sister-in-law Diane. Upon entering the room, the bridesmaids looked at me with a specific expression. It was the look of young women who had been struggling to manage something beyond their capabilities and were eager for an adult to arrive. Nora sat in a chair before the vanity mirror, still dressed in her wedding gown. Her crown lay on the counter next to her, one edge of the comb slightly bent where it had fallen. A redness marked her left cheekbone, indicating tears shed not long ago. She was beyond weeping now. She was in that tranquil space that follows. In the mirror, she greeted me, "Hi, Dad." Something deep within me stirred. Words to describe it I shall withhold, for I am a 54-year-old retired detective, and there are boundaries to my spoken sentiments in this moment. I moved towards her and placed my hands on her shoulders. Gazing at her reflection, I asked, "What can I help you with?" She hesitated before responding. Then she said, "I need your assistance in deciding what to do next." This I could provide. It was a task I had dedicated my entire career to for others, and now it would be for my daughter. From 26 years of dealing with domestic violence cases, I knew that the following 72 hours held weight almost unparalleled. Immediate actions taken by a victim in the aftermath of a violent event significantly influence subsequent events, regardless of whether they speak to law enforcement, seek medical attention, possess injury documentation, or consult legal counsel. This is not due to legal necessity, but rather because perpetrators recognize that time works in their favor if the victim hesitates. Wealthy families like Tyler's had resources, with his stepfather, Randall Briggs, being a commercial developer from Brentwood who could leverage connections such as lawyers, city council members, and individuals who reciprocated favors. I'd witnessed how such a network could sway a case, silencing witnesses, delaying investigations, and obscuring clear situations through unyielding patience and financial resources. In addition to these advantages, Tyler had seemingly underestimated one factor: an abundance of 200 witnesses, and one of them kept recording. At 9:47 on Twitter, a video emerged, filmed by Brittany Warfield, a college friend of Nora's who had flown from Atlanta for the wedding. Brittany initially started recording what she believed was a humorous moment between the bride and groom, a playful squabble she thought would make for amusing wedding content. However, within seconds, she realized it was not that. She nearly deleted it, but after 45 minutes of contemplation in Glenstone Hall's parking lot, she called two friends, prayed, and ultimately decided to post it due to her guilt and consideration of what she would want done if Nora were in her shoes. It is important to highlight that Brittany Warfield played a crucial role in advancing my daughter's case. Tonight in the honeymoon suite, I advised Nora on 3 matters. Initially, avoid going with Tyler tonight. Refuse his invitation to the hotel room, his home, or any car ride. Diane would take her to Hendersonville instead, where Pamela resides, and I will follow soon after. Secondly, it was crucial for the Sumner County deputies to interview her tonight while her facial redness persisted and her recollection of events remained fresh. I would accompany her throughout. She could choose not to reveal anything she preferred to keep private, but she should say something. Lastly, I plan to contact a lawyer tomorrow, not strictly for divorce purposes yet, but someone who could support her before Tyler's associates formulated their account of the events. Nora acknowledged all my points. Afterward, she remarked, "Mom warned me you'd make things convoluted." I responded, "Yes, she was trying to safeguard the day." "She wasn't intending to harm you, I am aware of that as well. I should have been more assertive to keep you around. I could sense something was amiss. I've known for quite some time now. I just kept convincing myself it would change once we were married, that the stress would diminish and he would revert to the person I first met. I didn't express my concerns. I didn't mention that this behavior is a recurring pattern with a specific name in literature, or that the outburst of physical violence at our wedding reception in front of 200 people was not an exception but a warning sign. I chose not to vocalize any of that. I simply said, "You don't need to resolve all of this tonight." She gave a single nod. "All right," she replied. "Let's discuss the matter with the deputies first. I want to share Tyler Briggs' story, but before we delve into it, I'd like to focus on Nora for a bit. She's not just a side character in this narrative. She's the central figure, and I don't want her role to be overshadowed. Nora Elena Prout, now simply referred to as Nora Prout, is 29 years old. Born and raised in Clarksville, Tennessee, she excelled at club soccer through high school, realizing she wasn't quite good enough for a college scholarship. This realization, I found, was handled with an exceptional maturity for a 17-year-old. She then pursued communications at MTSU in Murfreesboro, graduated in 4 years, and moved to Nashville at 22. Her entire career is self-made, with no financial aid or job assistance from me or any connections. That was her journey, her success story. To this day, she remains the most remarkable achievement I've had a hand in creating. On her wedding night, she confronted 2 deputies from Sumner County Sheriff's Office in a small room adjoining Glenstone Hall, providing them with a detailed, sequential, and emotionally composed account of the events. She elaborated on the heated discussion preceding it. Tyler had been intoxicated, and there was friction about the seating arrangement and his mother. They moved towards the dance floor's edge to address the issue discreetly. She explained the physical interaction in straightforward terms, neither downplaying nor exaggerating it. At one point, a young deputy, possibly in his mid-20s, inquired if this was the first time such an incident had occurred. Nora looked at the deputy before replying, "No." This simple word, whispered in a bridal suite in Gallatin, Tennessee, laid the groundwork for everything that ensued afterward. Tyler Ashton Briggs was apprehended that night. Deputies found him on Highway 31E's outskirts in Gallatin, at a location where he had registered at midnight. The charge was domestic assault, an incident that transpired in public, with numerous witnesses and video evidence. As a result, the district attorney's office in Gallatin took immediate action. Tyler's stepfather, Randall Briggs, sought legal representation from a well-known criminal defense lawyer in Nashville within 18 hours. Known for his past prosecution experience and high regard, the attorney was an indication that the family recognized the gravity of the situation. He released a statement expressing Tyler's remorse for the incident, describing it as a solitary outburst of stress amidst a challenging week, and stating that the couple were addressing their issues privately. However, in reality, the couple were not resolving anything privately. Nora had already engaged her own attorney, Susan Kellner, a family law specialist at a downtown Nashville firm, who was recommended by a former colleague of mine involved in victim advocacy. Susan was quiet, meticulous, and unyielding, and she conversed with Nora for 2 hours the day following the wedding, as Nora remained at Diane's residence in Hendersonville, donning clothes borrowed from Diane since she had departed Glenstone Hall in her wedding attire alone. Over the subsequent 4 months, the legal case progressed through the system. Tyler's lawyer tried to negotiate on several occasions, presenting arguments for mitigating circumstances, first offense, and lack of complete context in the video recording of the incident. However, the district attorney's office rebutted with Nora's statement, Brittany Warfield's footage, testimonies of 11 other witnesses who were present at the reception hall, and eventually, evidence from the preceding 18 months that Nora provided to Susan Kellner. This included photographs and texts. 8 months prior to their wedding, Nora began secretly documenting incidents in her phone's notes app following an incident in their East Nashville apartment's kitchen. This event remained undisclosed at the time. In May of this year, Tyler Ashton Briggs admitted guilty to domestic assault in Sumner County Criminal Court. He was given a suspended sentence, mandatory counseling, and a 2-year restraining order. His lawyer deemed it an acceptable resolution, while the DA viewed it as a first step. The divorce was recently finalized. Nora retained the apartment, which was in her name, and chose not to seek any possessions from Tyler, despite Susan's advice against it. I wish to share with you the discussion I had with Pamela. This isn't about our encounter in Glenstone Hall's parking lot, where our primary focus was logistics, rather than emotions. 3 weeks later, at the kitchen table on Crossland Avenue, with coffee untouched since it was past 11 and we were both aware of our folly, Pamela was not a villain. She yearned for her daughter's wedding day to be perfect, believing that managing controllable factors would achieve this goal, but she erred in determining what truly mattered. Across from me, she admitted, I should have challenged Tyler months before the wedding. I recognized signs, yet I made allowances. Upon asking her to elaborate, she did, some of which I had observed, some hadn't. His harsh speech toward Nora when he thought others weren't listening. The transformation in Nora's demeanor upon his entry into a room. At Easter dinner, Tyler made a comment about Nora's career that was ambiguously critical, and Nora responded with an assuredness that left Pamela feeling uneasy but reassured at the same time. I assumed, Pamela explained, that by maintaining a peaceful environment, things would resolve themselves, that Nora would eventually understand the situation on her own. I believed confronting it would only drive her closer to him. You were trying to safeguard her, I pointed out. Similarly, I had retreated when the need arose. Both our methods proved incorrect in protecting her. Pamela gazed at me. She contacted me the day after she disclosed before reaching out to the lawyer. She stated, Mom, Dad moved as swiftly to Glenstone Hall as I've ever seen anyone. Pamela paused. She expressed, I aspire to be someone who acts like that for those I cherish. There's nothing more to add. I believe it speaks volumes. It's been 7 months since the wedding. Nora remains at her apartment in East Nashville, situated on Shelby Avenue near 5 Points. She resumed work approximately 10 days post-wedding, stating the routine was beneficial, and her company showed understanding by managing media attention tactfully when a few entertainment news sites began to investigate the story following the video's viral spread. She attends therapy sessions, discussing it frankly without embarrassment or pretense, just as she addresses other matters. She visits on Tuesdays, and she finds it helpful. I travel to Nashville around twice a month to join her for lunch. We attended a Predators game in January, an initiative from her which conveys something. Our phone conversations occur most Sunday evenings, a practice we hadn't maintained since her college days. Did you wonder 2 months later if I harbored anger for missing your wedding? Pondering a moment, I responded, yes, I feel aggravated that the circumstances seem to necessitate my exclusion. That's what Tyler fostered, or at least did in the past. He made himself the focal point that others had to accommodate, causing good people to make decisions they wouldn't normally make. Were you angry with me? She questioned. No, I assured her, and I meant every word. You were doing your best with the available information. The same goes for your mother, and for when I decided to stay home. None of us are the focus here, Tyler is. After a brief pause, she remarked, I've often pondered about what could have transpired if Brittany hadn't filmed it. I've thought about that quite extensively, more than I care to admit. Frankly, I can't say for sure, perhaps nothing would have altered right away. Over the past 18 months, Tyler's control might have persisted, Nora could have extricated herself at her own pace, or the situation may have worsened, as history shows it often does. However, Brittany recorded it and 200 people witnessed it live. That night, someone came to my door asking if I'd watched the news. Being 40 minutes away, I managed to reach there in just 32 minutes. It's this part I cling to, not the months spent apart, not the actions I could have taken differently, nor the conversation I should have had with Tyler Briggs the night we met at Division Street's restaurant, when a voice of his made my detective senses pause, and I rationalized I was being unjust. What I retain is the 32 minutes on Old Hickory Boulevard, my daughter's reflection in the mirror, and the fact that when she needed me, I was present. I am Gerald Prout, a former detective, a parent. I'm here to convey that those who care for you deeply, the ones present at 10, 30 when things disintegrate, hold greater value than a solitary day. In fact, they surpass even a day that left you feeling embarrassed.